Welcome back everyone to another episode of Vegetarian Cooking with JJ. In this week's episode, we're going to be featuring some spaghetti squash made in the style of spaghetti, but it's squash. There's no wheat, no gluten in this recipe. And I'm going to be using a beautiful vegan sage butter and some garlic in there and some wild mushrooms to add a bit of texture and a bit of oomph to this recipe. This recipe is kosher for Passover, gluten-free, so there's no wheat products in this recipe for those who have sensitivities or have celiac disease. This is a simple and delicious recipe that I'm sure all of you are gonna love. So without further ado, let's head over to the kitchen and get cooking! First of all, we're preheating the oven to 425. I have two smallish sized spaghetti squash. I'm going to cut them in half. I'm scooping out the seeds. If you want to be picky about presentation, you may want to remove the seed pulp and use it for something else, or add it to your soup stock bag. I'm not going to do that because it's just shimmying me. It's also nice to toast the seeds and they go nicely with the salad. I'm brushing our squash with the olive oil. You can use an oil of your choice. I'm adding some salt and pepper. I've poked some holes in our squash skin for safety purposes to prevent possible explosions. I'm placing them face down on parchment lined baking sheet, and we're going to pop them in the oven and let them cook for about 40 minutes. Spaghetti squash contains pantothenic acid, vitamin B5, which aids in the metabolism of fatty acids, helps the body to utilize proteins, carbs, and fats. It contains vitamin C, niacin, manganese, vitamin B6, and it is rich in antioxidants. This is also known as noodle squash, vegetable marrow, and mandarin squash. It is said to have originated in China in the early 1800s. I have some dried mixed wild mushrooms we're going to hydrate with some boiling water. Let them sit until they've softened up. Make sure they're submerged. Here I'm slicing up one large shallot. I have 6 cloves of garlic, which should be good for the amount of squash we're using. I'm just going to mince it up. I have 1 sprig of sage, just peel off the leaves. Now our mushrooms are nicely hydrated, so I'm just going to strain the liquid. You're welcome to use a cheesecloth if you prefer. This liquid is like gold, so be sure to use it for another dish or sauce. If you don't plan to use it right away, feel free to freeze it at least. Now our squash is cooked. Note, the seeds take less time to cook than the squash, about 15 minutes. We're going to allow our squash to cool before scooping it out. This may not be the first thing that comes to mind, but for those of you who have a sweet tooth, spaghetti squash can be used to make desserts, believe it or not. There are recipes out there that use a squash in the mix for muffins, cakes, and so much more. Let us know in the comments below if you've ever made a dessert recipe using spaghetti squash. Did you know that squash flowers are also used in the culinary world? Well, some are battered and deep fried, while some are stuffed and baked, and others are used for the presentation of dishes. I'm toasting some pine nuts here on this dry pan. This will be nice to top off our dish in the end. Our squash is cooled off enough, so I'm scooping it all out, placing it over a strainer so we can remove all the extra liquid. This liquid is also great to use for other dishes or as a part of a soup, so be sure to save it and plan to use it. Heating our stovetop to medium, melting our earth balance in our Dutch oven here. You can use about 1/4 cup for this amount of squash. I have our beautiful shallot slices here, and we're going to add our rings of shallot into our pan. Adding in our garlic. And adding in our sage leaves. Allow the beautiful flavors to infuse. Although you can try the spaghetti squash with a marinara sauce, the vegan sage butter allows for the squash flavor to come through more so, and I personally feel it's a better way to experience all the flavors. It's time to add our wild mushrooms. If you like, you can use mushrooms of your choice. I like my wild mushrooms. Gently add in the squash and gently mix everything up. I sliced up a red chili pepper and I'm adding it in. This is optional. Add some salt and fresh ground pepper. If you're like me, you may want to add some herbs to finish this dish off. I'm slicing up some fresh basil here. I'm also slicing up some fresh parsley. Now it's plating time. Add our lovely herbs and our vegan parmesan, which is basically nuts with nutritional yeast. Another optional addition, but quite nice. I'm adding our lovely toasted pine nuts and you're ready to go. The amount I made is good for 2 people as a meal. I recommend a side salad. This is also good as a side dish for a family meal. It's that time again, everyone. I get to try our delicious vegan sage butter wild mushroom spaghetti squash. Here it goes. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. I think it turned out amazing personally. Savor those flavors. I love the herbaceousness, that garlic, the mushroom for that nice texture and nice contrast with the texture. Nice, beautiful flavors there. It is perfect in my opinion, and I'll definitely make this again. Of course, I love using spaghetti squash in this way. Feel free to share your thoughts and what you've done with spaghetti squash in the past. And if you've tried this recipe, comment down below. Share your experience with the rest of us. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up button, subscribing to my channel, and hitting the little bell notification icon so that you don't miss a single video. There's gonna be a new video, a new recipe every Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Of course, you can watch it whenever you're up, whenever you're around to watch it. I'm always interested to hear from you, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So stay tuned for more videos as we travel the globe in my kitchen, keeping things interesting in my kitchen and in yours. Bon appetit. They use the squash, mix it up, and get it all sweet.